Welcome back. This is Daybreak, and thanks for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Richard Onyonka. He is the Senator, the County of Kisii. Good morning and Happy New Year, Senator.
Good morning, Ayub. Happy New Year. I'm happy to be back in the studio. I've been on break, and I'm happy to see you.
Happy to see you too.
And I'm also very happy to be with my brothers here and my friends. I'm actually excited.
All right. The 49th President of the Law Society of Kenya, Advocate Nelson Harvey, is with us here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, thank you.
And Belgut lawmaker Nelson Kwech is with us also in the studio. He chairs the Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Good morning, Ayub, and Happy New Year to you and Happy New Year to the viewers.
Asante, lovely having you here. Shortly, we'll be joined by Eddie Okech, who represents the county of Migori at the Senate, as we seek answers to the troubling questions on the abductions epidemic. Gentlemen, let's begin with a look at the front pages of the dailies. And the Daily Nation says, released by whom after more than 6 months since a spike in enforced disappearances, with at least 6 young Kenyans abducted in December alone. The DCI have little to show in terms of investigation. 5 of them were released yesterday in a seemingly coordinated manner in locations across the country, weeks after Police Chief Douglas Kanja said his officers had nothing to do with the abductions. On the front page of the Standard, queries as captivity horror tales emerge as dumbstruck and traumatized families yesterday reunited with their missing kin who had been away for 14 days. Coming to you first, Nelson Harvey, Advocate. This certainly, given the series of abductions that have happened and the accounts by the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, it's a leap in the direction of darkness, is it?
It is indeed a leap in the direction of darkness. A formidable indictment against the Kenya Kwanza administration. We cannot have an administration that does not protect the sanctity of life. And when queried on the whereabouts of Kenyans who are missing, the pronouncement that comes from the echelon of leadership of the country pronounces that it is not aware of what is happening. If then the top organ of management of a country is not aware of what's happening, then who is aware of what is happening? That is the conundrum that we face right now. There is a breakdown. There's a total failure of administration in this country. And what happened yesterday should not be celebrated in the form of giving credit to the government. No. I saw clarion calls that free at last. Free from what? We've not been fighting for independence. We've not been fighting for second liberation. We have a working constitution with a Bill of Rights that guarantees the sanctity of life, the safety of all individuals. We should never celebrate this nonsense because they ought not to have been abducted in the first place. So that the National Police Service, the DCI, should not thrive in that statement they released yesterday, that they are now free and with their family. Free from what? What offense had they committed? Which court had they been arraigned? Which penitentiary had they been subjected to for imprisonment for them to be freed? No, somebody has to be held accountable. And it's for that reason, therefore, that we've said the current cabinet secretary in charge of Interior and the former cabinet secretary in charge of Interior, that is Kipchumba Murkomen and Kindiki Kithure, must be held accountable. We know in the National Assembly, their colleagues will not want to hold them accountable because they have acquiesced, they have countenanced their actions. But these two, being advocates of the High Court of Kenya, are answerable to us as their peers through the Law Society of Kenya. And for that reason, therefore, we are very deliberate. We'll move a motion at the annual general meeting of the lawyers, which will be held in the month of March, to remove the two. And any other individuals within this government who will come to the conclusion have let us down, they have breached their oath as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya.
Okay, and in seeking those remedial measures then, What's the accusation on the two that you have singled out?
An advocate swears to uphold the rule of law. A cabinet secretary swears to uphold the Constitution. These two individuals are advocates. They're supposed to uphold the rule of law. The rule of law, insofar as the Bill of Rights is concerned, is the protection of life. Lives have been lost during their watch. People have been kidnapped and detained during their watch. And what do they say? They say they are unaware of what is happening. It is not the government that is responsible for these abductions and killings. The question therefore begs, if the government does not know the whereabouts of a Kenyan for 31 days, for 15 days, then who will know? They hold the greatest responsibility so far as this issue is concerned. More so because they are advocates of the High Court of Kenya. We must hold them accountable.
And Honorable Nelson Kwech, and besides being the lawmaker, you also chair the very influential Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations Committee of the National Assembly. Are you concerned, are you troubled with the sluggish manner in which answers have been forthcoming regarding the whereabouts of Kenyans, who is abducting them, why, and why there seems to be a concurrence in the manner of release of these Kenyans who are taken?
First, let me say I'm happy that those who are accused, who are alleged to have been abducted, have been united with their families. Mm-hmm. You know, it's really troubling. I'm sure I watched quite an unpleasant video of the father of one of those alleged to have been abducted, and it didn't look nice. It's terrible to have someone not within family, yet you don't know their whereabouts. It's really bad situation. But my question this morning will be quite different. I want to run away from the very populist comments that people are making, and let us face the reality. Mm-hmm. And the reality is there's something that is totally not sitting pretty with my spirit. I strongly want to think that there is something that is happening that probably it will be unraveled shortly. And Kenyans should be able to understand if there have been abductions or not. Because it's worrying if there were abductions. Sanctity of life, like Akilia is saying, it must be protected. And that is what the Constitution has provided. But then at the same time, why this... Look, for instance, a case yesterday of a young man called Kibet, you know. He says he appears somewhere in Rwanda and he's been partying the whole night. And yesterday he found his way to Nakuru. Look at the faces of the people who have been released, as it is said. They look very clean. They don't look hungry. They look well-shaven. They look people who have been somewhere. You cannot be released by abductors and still attend some disco in Rwanda. It is impossible. And you've been away for 15 days. And you still look clean. And you know, you still look comfortable to go and dance a night away. Let us be very honest with the people of this country. Someone is playing a game. It looks to me that someone was staging an act to trigger a series of events, to trigger a series of activities. In my view, and I really hold, and even in my committee, I think it is our responsibility as members of parliament to invite the ministers to shed light on what is happening. But even before we do that, I want to call upon the Director of Criminal Investigation to go further, invite these young men who were released yesterday.
Okay, they're already
and do interrogation to find out exactly what happened. And if it is possible, do it public, and so that we know what has happened.
Okay. The National Police Service yesterday released a statement saying that they will record statement. They did so. Are you alleging then that those 5 Kenyans were not abducted?
No. All I'm saying is that let us not politicize issues. It is very easy to politicize issues. I saw the media, actually, very responsibly, having someone, an engineer who lost his life from Bomet, is yet to be buried, you know, saying he's part of the team that was abducted. Later, the family issued a statement to say, no, our son has nothing to do with abductions. Our son, in fact, is not political and has not been online and is not an activist. So please disassociate our family and the abduction issue and just leave us mourn in peace. And media did not even take time to call the family to verify what really happened with that young man, engineer. They didn't. All they did was because it is very popular and it is news and breaking news to just say someone has been abducted by the government or by state agent actors, security actors. It is easy to say that. But we must be responsible as a nation. Yeah, we must, nation as a media as well, yeah. We must be responsible. Let's not be sensational. Of course. Let us, my issue is this, Ayub, and if you allow me. I'm not saying that they were not abducted. Yeah, responsibility lies somewhere. Absolutely. We did report that the missing case of the gentleman you have talked about. And when you talk about the responsibility, the sanctity of human life is the sole mandate and responsibility of the government of Kenya at any given time. To protect Koech, to protect Harvey, to protect Senator Onyonka and I. But given what has been happening, the mushrooming cases of abductions across the country, as the chair of that influential committee, are you not troubled troubled. Then the government isn't doing this, that other parties could be taking advantage? And isn't that not a serious indictment on our governance architecture? You create a terrible spin as a media if you sensationalize something and it turns out it's not true. In fact, I expect an apology from media houses for having actually referred to the case of Bomet as an abduction. Yes, it was an abduction. Okay, it is embarrassing when a family... Case. Okay. It is no. It is, don't say that. All right. Like you've just said, the sanctity of life must be protected. All right. Then, so as we hold the police, as we hold the security actors to account, we must be responsible, both as politicians and as media. Okay. Everyone who speaks about it must be extremely responsible. All right. And then, as I say that, let me also say this. It is important to find out who doing this abduction. We'll talk about the who, because the who is an entirely another question which is very key. Senator Onyonka, I'll come to you. What was then sensational, Honorable Koech, about reporting on Peter Muteti, Billy Mwangi, Ronnie Kiplagat, and Bernard Kavuli? I look at, and I have said it, and I have my points on why I've said it. I mean, if you look at the cases of where the allegations that have been made before, and no, we all live in this country. You cannot be abducted and you still are released in the morning and still are able to attend a disco. It is impossible. Then it means, how do you party when you've been as claimed you've been abducted? Where do you get the energy? How do you look so clean shaven, still have money, still go and afford a beer, still dance with girls? To me, I'm not saying they were not abducted. I am saying there is something terribly wrong. There's something that does not connect. So you don't discount there's something amiss. I'm not discounting. Okay. I'm saying there's something terribly amiss. But then, and I'm saying, let us be responsible. Yeah. Let's not politicize it. No, there's nothing political about it. There's everything. Politicians have used it. Politicians have used it. Yes, Honorable Onyonka, I'll come to you.
Once again, I'm just traumatized to sit here and listen to my brother say what he's saying. His party leader, the president, announced himself. He said, I've heard about abductions and I'll make sure I stop them. The partner in the KK government, ODM team, our Mzee Raila, pronounced himself. He said, stop this nonsense. All right? Many other people, church leaders, have pronounced themselves on these abductions. We have seen families who have been issuing public statements through the media and everywhere. Even when my brother may try and trivialize that there could be a case, and I guess that's the case he picked. There have been several people who've been abducted, violated. There are people who've been killed because of bad manners as usual. And our job as politicians is to try and sanitize what the state does because of whatever interest we may have. I even see, Ayub, if you look at the Daily Nation, I think it's page 12, where somebody's saying, free speech calls for personal responsibility. What are you saying? If you feel I've broken the law, arrest me, take me, charge me, Senator Eddy, and let me get a lawyer, protect my Miranda rights. Let's go and sort it out in court. This is a state that believes in the rule of law. And the moment we start to degenerate ourselves as if we are just one of these narco republics in Latin America where drug dealers are just going out to pick children and women and violating their rights because of the tough wars that are taking place, we are talking about Kenya is a constitutional republic. We have a constitution that took close to 40 years. Our rights are protected. And everybody understands that the president has to be respected because the presidency has even nothing to do with the individual in that office. We understand that. Most Kenyans do. Even these kids who are being violated, they do. What many of us are saying, Ayub, is very simple. And this is a position that my brother Javi has taken, and I'm like, Jesus, at least some adults are in the room. Do not unilaterally violate my rights by justifying that you think I've broken the law. Use the standard which is acceptable to me because I understood the risk I took by criticizing the head of state.
Okay.
But do not take the power that we have basically given you and start violating the rights of Kenyans and begin to mismanage our country. All we are saying is many of us are not anti-government. Many of us are not against President William Ruto. What we are saying is, boss, just govern. Observe people's rights, manage the economy, make sure that Kenyans are happy, get opportunities for people if you can, open up the space, you know.
Okay. Senator Eddie, good morning.
Morning.
Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Thank you.
And Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year, bro.
Your party leader has admitted to cases of abductions, and he, before the president in Homa Bay County on the 27th of last month in December, said this madness should stop. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely. But first of all, Ayub, it is very unfortunate that we say Happy New Year by discussing abductions. Because as a country and as a mature democracy, this is something that should be way behind us. The idea that if you have got dissenting voices of any nature in government or outside the government as a population, then we can start seeing cases of abduction. And I think that is why, my party leader, Honorable Amolo Odinga, was extremely stunned by the fact that things like abduction still go on in our country. Today, as we wake up today, I was just trying to scan across the country. Kids are going back to school, and you find that about 3,000 classrooms need to be built so that our kids can be able to have a roof on top of themselves as they study. If you were to take that and extrapolate it into let's say even 50 kids per classroom, that is about 150 kids that will not have classrooms as we start the year.
150,000?
150,000, I mean, that will start schooling without proper classrooms. These are the things we should be discussing as we start the country right now. And as a nation, we must move beyond this kind of dissent. And I appreciate the fact that, despite the fact that all these point at the president also did acknowledge, just like my party leader, that abductions must stop. And he did commit in the same day that you are quoting in Homa Bay, that he would stop this. And in fact, all us leaders that we're talking about abductions here, we can do very little. There are leaders in this country that can do something about it. Of course, the first one being the president, because he's the one who has been given the sword by the population to protect life and property. And also then we have got the security infrastructure that must be able to deal with this. But the point is this: abductions, by all means possible, cannot be accepted in our country. And I want to talk to the political class today, that even us, as young people have been in politics, every single day we are trolled. Every single day we are abused on Facebook. Sometimes even our families are abused on social media. And sometimes these bloggers, Ayub, they abuse you in the morning. I've seen this in Migori particularly. They abuse you so badly in the morning, and then in the midday, they start texting you, telling you, I was just, trying to get something. I'm just hustling also, trying to get something. Okay. So our level of tolerance to this kind of abuses online must be something that is akin to understanding that some of these abuses are just young people who are not sometimes bad meaning, but just sometimes find themselves where they are manipulated either by other political players or by the circumstances to the extent that they express themselves differently. And as a country, yes, we cannot tolerate this kind of disrespect, but we can be able to have a conversation that does not mean losing lives just because there is dissenting voices.
And there's always a thin line, is it, between how we express ourselves and the freedom of speech,
yes,
which is guaranteed by the Constitution.
Yes.
I mean, this largely points to the criticism that you have said,
yes,
which the theater of operation, its theater of operation is the online platforms. I mean, we gave ourselves a constitution that is expensive, and so is democracy. Our leaders should understand and should learn, is it, that they have the right to be offended and the right not to be offended.
Yes.
And how then do we delink that from these cases where the lives of Kimani Ichung'wah, Oscar Sudi are blaming the institution of parenting as to why this criticism is so intense online?
I think everybody has a responsibility, to be honest. The parents have responsibilities, teachers have responsibilities, political class have responsibilities. But a good nation is a nation that always reflects. If you look at how we started last year, we ended it differently, but it was a very rough year. Because in the middle of the year, this country was at the brink of collapse because of these kind of sometimes reckless statements. And I think that the balance is a play at facts, because facts are always stubborn, in the sense that if leaders who are anti-decent could be a little bit factual, because some of these leaders that you see resisting some of these abductions online are actually not factual, right? You find the cases where some leaders will say that somebody has abducted themselves. I mean, nobody can abduct themselves. How do you abduct yourself and then go ahead and kill yourself? In the cases that where abductees have actually died, there is no fact to that extent. But that also is also true on the other side, where some leaders choose also to play politics with this issue, where they don't have also fact of those who have been abducted, what caused those abductions, and how are those people abducted, where are they? Even now that the 4 abductees have been able to reunite with their families, 5 I mean, have been able to reunite with their families, we still don't have the facts. Who did these abductions? How are they abducted? There has to be an instrument of investigations on both sides, and that responsibility lies squarely on the political class, because the political class, you've got one side, those who do not believe in these abductions because they want to justify their position as the right position in government. And then we've got the political class that wants to play politics with these issues. I want to give you an example, and sorry for shedding this spotlight on one individual, the former deputy president, for instance. I've seen him talk very vehemently about abduction, but I see a lot of insincerity, because the same person who wants to be the face of human rights fight on these abductions is the same person that when he was the deputy president, when people were being killed in Kisumu, when people were being killed in Migori, I lost people that I know personally that were killed by police. They were not on the streets. Police would go to their houses and torture them, and you'll see mothers putting testimonies. And when we went to take those bodies, the same former deputy president said that these were bodies that were taken from the mortuary, and they were real. So I want to caution even those who are in government now that do not deny these abductions. They are real, and the way the president said that will stop them, work at stopping them, but do not deny them. But those who are also fighting against these abductions should not make it a theater of politics, because then you become insincere and make it impossible to deal with issues of human rights.
All right. And Council Harvey, when the president said we will end these abductions, Mechi had knowledge of what was happening.
Look, Ayub, you are the president. As Harry Truman says, the buck stops here. Ideally, the president doesn't sleep. He just goes on screensaver mode. He has a repository of intelligence. So the president knows. And you can't stop anything that you are not in charge of. That is fact. And let us end this national demagogue competition that started in Bungoma where everybody was trying to pontificate to the president and say, there are no abductions. These people are being dramatic, they're abducting themselves. Of course, there are abductions. And if anything is to go by, yesterday and the day before yesterday, 2 bodies of individuals who had gone missing were discovered. So let's put an end to this subterfuge by my namesake, Nelson Koech, here, that we need to introspect and see that these allegations, what allegations? People have died. You come here and tell us this is not how an abducted person looks like. So you know how an abducted person looks like, isn't it? You've been abducting them. you know they ought not to look like this.
Clean.
So keep them for 10 days, let the uproar continue, measure and evaluate how much pressure there is coming, put them in a sterile environment, give them some water. We know, I always take a lot of water if I have to come here and I'm exhausted. So give them some water, take their phones, tweet that they have been in a disco matter. We know all these games, Nelson. Please, stop it. These are stupid games. You are a relatively intelligent person. Don't come and tell the people of Kenya that these individuals abducted themselves. How? And you, my friend and my senator, the other day I was in my farm, you overflew my farm on your way home. You're from Kilgoris. When you sit with the president there in Kilgoris, do you tell him that what he's doing is wrong? Do you tell him that it cannot be that he fails to understand that the buck stops with him? You understand? If I was with him, I will tell him. Because the days that he used to listen to me, I will tell him. Let's be candid. And it's nothing political. What is politics? Politics is the art of good governance. You understand? So when we raise these things, don't tell us not to politicize the issue. Coming back to you, Ayub.
Yeah.
You cannot stop that which shouldn't start. So the government was responsible for these abductions. Yeah. The government said it will stop the abductions. It stopped the abductions by releasing some individuals who had been abducted.
Okay.
We saw bodies of 2 people who had gone missing. This is the life of individuals. And it should concern Kenyans that it prevails despite the protestation, despite the guarantees given by the Constitution.
One amongst the other issues that had endeared you as you cozied up to Deputy President William Ruto before the elections and even attended the manifesto launch on the 30th of June 2022 was the tacit support that you expressed for him. And this morning, you are differently reading from a different hymn sheet. Are you licking your wounds this morning?
No, I have no wounds to lick.
He was rewarded. He's the chairman of RBA. And he was appointed by the president. In fact, looking at Avi, he's insincere.
Can I say something?
You cannot be serving in a government.
Richard,
this is so wonderful. Let me say it. Harvey, wait. Let me say.
Let me again ask him the question.
When we were sitting out there having coffee,
yes,
that is when I know that this is a man of integrity. He told me the fact that I've been given the chairmanship by the president doesn't mean I don't have to tell him the truth. So proceed.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
So, Council,
that's what he was implying.
He talks to the president as well. That's what I'm saying.
For you, the priority, Council,
he talks to the
human
president.
rights. I mean, all your legal.
Ayub.
Yes.
On a bad day, the wind will blow and the anus of the chicken will be exposed. Let me now expose. The exposition starts here. This is the mentality of these people who I mistakenly thought had a functional agenda for the people of Kenya. They come here and say, we have rewarded you with an appointment to serve as chair of a parastatal. Me, rewarded? What are they talking about?
I didn't say
Listen, I was handpicked by Dr. William Samuel Ruto to ferociously fight the BBI. You understand? I'm not an individual that pontificates. I'm not an individual that panders. I don't look for favors. I do not need any. I made my bonds long time ago. I met these individuals at their behest and request. They asked me to come and rescue Oscar Sudi when he had been arrested and detained. They asked me to go and rescue the senator of Bomet when he had been arrested and detained. Who is doing the other a favor? They come here and tell me that they have given me an appointment as a chair of parastatal, so I should keep quiet. Keep quiet for what? I've been a lawyer for the last 22 years. I've defended human rights. And individuals of this kind must be called out because they think they will dish out what they perceive as favors.
Okay.
I'm doing you a favor serving as a chair of a state corporation.
It's more,
Never should you ever consider or domicile in your mind that you rewarded me. No, it's not you.
Don't more importantly, you are here as a Kenyan.
Don't be emotional. If he took time, let me just.
Well, we'll get back from the break. We have 1 hour to finish up after the break.
You're emotional.
No, this is good.
The hashtag next is citizen. Senator, order. The hashtag on next is Citizen Break. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We proceed after the break here with the 3 members of the bicameral parliament and the 49th president of the Law Society of Kenya.